Hey guys, TC here. Just doing a quick tank review for you here on, not actually doing a tank review, doing the medium tanks, crew and equipment for you. We're also trying to do a 60 FPS recording for you here, so hopefully that should work quite well. We'll see how we get on. Seems to be holding quite nicely, so we'll have a look what that looks like on the replay. If it looks quite good, just let me know as well. So, medium tanks. Let's talk about them. Medium tanks can be broken down, in my opinion, into two classes. You can have either them set up to brawl, so you get up close, you get personal, you're dancing around them, you're doing, your dogfighting, you're using a bit of auto aim, bit of circle strafing, flanking, that kind of stuff. But you can also use them as long distance passive snipers, depending on how accurate the gun is and that kind of stuff. So if we take the E50M here, this is what I think is the perfect example of a tank that can do both. So the E50M, everyone knows, is quite a heavy, fast, very powerful tier 10 medium with a .3 accuracy 105mm gun. It's one of the most accurate guns in the game, and it's also one of the quickest. It's not one of the quickest tier 10 mediums, but it's about normal with about 60 kph top speed. However, it's got a huge frontal armor at 160mm, and because of the weight and the speed, it's an effective ramming machine. Personally, my best ram is 900 hit points and an object 140 at the bottom of a hill. So, this is a real Jekyll and Hyde tank. I've set mine up. I set all my mediums up, and as a whole, I set my mediums up with a V-stab, optics, and vents. A couple of the lower tier ones, I will run a gun lane drive, a rammer, and vents. Mainly because I've already got quite good view range at that tier, and I feel quite confident with it. In terms of that, it's entirely up to yourself. Again, if you're talking about an auto loader tank, so if we look at the Skoda T25 here, as you can see, you can't run a rammer, so I do run vents, I do run a gun lane drive because it can't mount a V-stab, and I do mount the optics. The two key ones for me are vents and optics. Vents because it boosts your crew all round, and optics for that extra view range. I do prefer having more view range than a quicker firing gun. Mainly because I want to be able to see and put shots into people before they can spot me. So that being said as well, I do like to train camo on my crews, but then it depends on how I play the tank. If I play the tank aggressively and I play the tank brawling, if I that kind of way, I will prefer to mount a stabilizer and a rammer, and I will train them with repairs. It entirely depends on how the crew works and how that's set up. My Comet, for example, is one of my very oldest tier 7 mediums. So as you can see, I've gone with the standard perks, so to speak, to start with, and then the skill of camouflage being built across all of them. If I look at my Cromwell B crew, as you can see, we've got BIA because the crew came with it. Then we've got another couple of sets of perks, and then we're working on camo. If I look at my T34-3, as you can see, we've done repairs, and now we've done BIA, and now we're doing another skill. That's because I use this tank to stand off. I'm very cautious with this tank. It doesn't have the best of gun, and because of the long reload, you have to plan your engagements. However, what I'll be doing is I'm going to do a separate premium tank review, and I'll talk more about that as the time goes on. So, in terms of medium tanks, one thing I would stress very heavily, okay, you've got to be ready to take up the scouting role for your team. You are able to scout effectively with your tanks. For example, 453 meter view range here on my little T20. You have to be ready to perform that scout role for your team, to give them the eyes that they need to help your team effectively locate and take out the opposition. That's what you need to do. You can't not do that. After light tanks, your mediums are your most valuable tank in terms of view range and DPM. Your heavy tanks, like we said last week, they're all about taking the hits, soaking the punishment, bouncing the shots, dealing big alpha shots. Your mediums are all your dodge, duck, dip and dive sort of tanks. You know, spot them, engage at range if needs be, or perform fast flanking manoeuvres. So that being said, you know, brass tacks of it for your medium tanks, you want a rammer, you want optics, and you want vents. That's the way I think you should set up a medium. You've got the benefit of view range, decent reload. You have to work with the accuracy. It will vary and depend from tank to tank to tank. Some of them you will run optics, vents, and a stabilizer. You'll forego the rammer for the increased accuracy. You have to counteract the tank's weaknesses, or perceived weaknesses. But you know, as I say, view range wins games. So you know, that's my opinion on that, and that's what I'm going to stand by. I will happily explain. I'll happily explain it to anybody, because it does. At the end of the day, you have to find them to kill them. There's no point driving around in a really nice, fast, mobile, you know, tank like, say, you know, the Comet or the, you know, the Cromwell. Sorry, not the TVP. The TVP is a dog of a tank at the minute. You know, you have to be able to stand off. You have to be able to engage at range. If you can't do that, you're not going to win the battle. So I would say your mediums, decide how you want to play them. Are you going to provide the extra eyes in the scouting for your tank, for your crew, for your team? Then go with vents, go with the optics, and then decide whether you want the increased reload speed or you want the increased accuracy. But vents and optics, I would say, are a must. You know, if you're going to perform that kind of a role. If you're going to perform a brawler role where you're going to get involved, you want to do high DPM, you want to do lots of damage, then, you know, vents, rammer, and either a V-stab or a lane drive, depending on what your tank can fit. That's, you know, that's what you need to be doing. You have to think, how are you setting up your tank to win the game for your team? My Cromwell, you can see here, has 416 meters view range. I could make that a heck of a lot further by switching out, say, the lane drive for optics, and it's a viable option. However, I would then lose the 10% aiming time and the 10% buff that a gun lane drive gives you. So on the Comet, you're talking about 2.3 second aiming time, which at tier 6 is actually quite a long time. You know, but you do have quite a nice 0.36 accuracy gun. It works. So, you know, it entirely depends what role you want to take for your team. You can either brawl, so, you know, as we said, rammer, vents, lane drive or V-stab, or you can provide the eyes towards the late game and, you know, forego either the reload time or the aim time. It entirely depends on the sort of gameplay you have and also the crew. So moving that on, let's talk about crews. My Cromwell crew is quite advanced, and I think I have this quite well set up. I've gone BIA, the commander then has 6th Sense, Recon, and I'm training Camo. I'm then training Snapshot, Deadeye and Camo. Then I'm training Smooth Ride and Clutch Braking, Situational Awareness, Repairs, and then Camo, Safe Stowage, Repairs, and then Camo. As you can see by the way I've set the Cromwell up, is I play this quite aggressively and quite as a brawler and dogfighter. It's what the Cromwell I think does best because it's got a very fast turret traverse, it's got a very fast firing gun, and it's a very quick, very mobile tank. It relies on its speed and ability to survive. If I switch to my E50M, my E50M can brawl. However, I've not set it up to brawl. With the crew, I've gone with full BIA, then I've gone with 6th Sense, Camo, and I'm doing repairs. I'm doing Snapshot, Camo, and repairs. Controlled Impact, Camo, and repairs. Situational Awareness, Camo, and repairs. Safe Stowage, Camo, and repairs. I've set the E50M up to be very powerful late game. It does rely on me surviving to late game, and as you know, I'm a little bit of a charger. It's something I'm trying to curtail in my gameplay. So I'm all about view range, 475 meter view range. If I look at my tier 10 mediums, of which I have 4, the E50M at 475 meter view range, my Batchat 470, my Object 463, and my Centurion 486. So it kind of gives you an idea of how I like to play my medium tanks, how I set them up, how I set myself up in my high tier medium tank games. I'm not one for rushing in and dying quickly, although that is my tendency in my gameplay. I need to learn to not do that, and that is a personal thing for myself that I need to improve on. Hopefully with time I'll be able to master that, but you know, when we're at the thick end of 40,000 games, you're still always learning here. So yeah, that's my idea on medium tanks, guys. Setup 1, very aggressive, brawling, high DPM, high mobility, high accuracy on the move. Option 2, more catered to late game, your view range, you know, being able to spot and not be spotted and things like that. It entirely depends how you play your medium tanks. There are, you know, you've got both options there. Very powerful setups in both way. It entirely depends on yourself though. So that's been my review on the crew skills and the equipment on the tanks, on medium tanks. Next time we'll look at light tanks, which I think is more difficult, especially with the introduction of the team battles and things like that. So if you've any comments, any thoughts, please feel free to drop me a message down below. If you would prefer me to do a different one, one of the other ones, artillery, tank destroyers for example, please feel free to comment and I'm happy to change that. Any questions, let me know. And as always guys, we'll catch you on the battlefield. Thanks for watching. Bye now.